For the 12.5 notes, this is the surface area and volume of cones. So again, you see that we have lateral area and surface area. Lateral area would be the cone part here, and then the surface area would include the cone and the circle at the bottom, or in this case maybe at the top, depending on how it's positioned. You will need the radius and the slant height for surface area. So a slant height would be here from the vertex to the base. Of course, it's at a slant. And then for volume, we would need the height of the cone going from the center of the circle to the point there at the tip of the cone. So first and foremost, if we look down here at the first example, we are given the radius and the slant height, but we don't know the height. So again, we are going to have to use Pythagorean theorem like we did when we did pyramids as well. So in this case, if we go ahead and set this up as A, B, and C, so H is really like our height, but that's like our B. So A, B, and then C. We would have 15 squared plus H squared equals 25 squared. Working this out, 225 plus H squared equals 625. And if we subtract, we would get 400. Now, we need to take the square root of that 400 to get H, which makes 20. Alright, so now we have our radius, our slant height, and our height. So we have everything that we need to find the surface area and the volume of this cone. The directions do say use 3.14 for pi, and it says round to the nearest tenth. Not everything will get a decimal, but if we do get a decimal, we'll round to the nearest tenth. Okay, so for surface area, let's find that lateral area first. So that would be pi RL. And because I don't have a ton of space, I'm going to work horizontally here. So obviously pi is pi, the radius is 15, and the slant height is given as 25. This would give us 375 pi. Now earlier in this unit, we discussed how for lateral area we would just leave it the pi here because we can combine like terms in surface area down here. So let's just keep going. So surface area, we have pi r squared plus pi RL. Alright, now out of these two parts of the surface area, we know that this right here is a lateral area. Okay, so we are going to plug all of that 375 pi in for this here in a minute. Here we've got pi times 15 squared plus that lateral area, 375 pi. 15 squared is 225 pi plus 375 pi. So now that we have both of our terms in pi, we can add those together, and this would give us 600 pi. But as you know, we need to have, using 3.14 for pi, round to the nearest tenth. So if I take 600 times 3.14, I get 1,884. So that comes out to a nice whole number. I don't have to round. And make sure I have my label, centimeters squared. Moving over to volume, here we've got 1/3 times pi times r squared times h. Okay, so we're just going to plug straight in. And the height this time would be 20. Okay, so now I would go ahead and multiply these two together. And that gives me 4,500. So to solve this, I would, if I can, I don't want there to be too much of a glare here. So I would do the 4,500 divided by 3, because 1/3 of 4,500 is 4,500 divided by 3. And this gives me 1,500 pi. So I'm just going to times that by 3.14, and we get 4,710 centimeters cubed. Okay, moving on. So looking at part B, we have the radius and the height, but this time we're missing the lateral area. Okay, must be a cursive L. So we've got a squared and b squared. We need to figure out c squared. So over here, I'm just going to do the 5 squared plus 9 squared equals L squared. And 25 plus 81 gives me 106. And then I square root that, and the square root of 106 is 10.29. All right, well, obviously I can't use this big number over and over again, so I'm going to go ahead and round this to the nearest tenth. So 10.3, and then I will use 10.3 in all my calculations. All right, so now, working with surface area, I work with that lateral area first, pi RL. So pi 5, L is 10.3. Okay, so if I multiply 10.3 and what's 5? I get 51.5 pi. Again, that's your lateral area. So in the surface area, we know that this part is 51.5 pi. So let's calculate the circle here. So pi 5 squared, and then this would be the 51.5 pi. All right, so now I've got 25 pi, 51.5 pi, and this would combine to be 76.5 pi. So if I multiply 76.5 times 3.14, I get 240.21. But we know that we are rounding to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to go with 0.2 inches squared. Okay, last, we've got volume is 1/3 pi, r squared h. So r is 5, and h is at 10 point, nope, h is 9. Sorry, we don't have the whole picture there, do we? All right, so now we've got 25 times 9. If I multiply 25 and 9, we get 225. So what I would do is I would take 225 divided by 3, which is 75, and then I would times that by 3.14, and it gives me 235.5. Well, that's in the tenths place, so, and there's nothing after the 5, so I am done. So that's 235.5 inches cubed. And we had 75 pi here. Okay. So that would be your final answer for the volume for part B.